Hi everyone, this video is going to go through some of the questions from the CCs. This is the iXL section that's on arithmetic sequences and series, just to give you some tips on how to complete them. So you do want to make sure that you have your formulas handy because you will need them for this section. So just be aware, make sure you have those somewhere where you can reference them. CC1 is asking you to find the terms of an arithmetic sequence. So you're filling in either blanks or just basically filling in whatever number is missing. So you can see here, it says type the missing number in the sequence. Well, between -40, -36, and -32, I'm adding 4, which means I would have added 4 to this -48. So -44 is the term that's missing. This is another easy one. You're just filling in two different numbers that are missing. When you get to some of the later ones, like for example, this one that's decimals, you may need to actually get a calculator and find the difference between two consecutive terms in order to add on what's missing. So this one is adding 0.1. So this one would actually be 4.0 or just 4. This one would be 4.3 because 0.1 is our common difference. This is one that I've seen tripping some different students up. So what I would suggest, get out your calculator or get out something and find two numbers that are next to each other. For example, 0.56 and 1.06. So I'm going to take my 1.06 and I'm going to subtract the 0.56 from that. This does give me a positive number because I am adding something to get to the next term. But whenever I subtract those, you actually end up with 0.5. So 0.5 is my common difference. 0.5 is what I'm adding to each term to get the next term, which means the 1.06, I would add the 0.5 and get 1.56. And then I would add 0.5 to that to get this next term, which is going to be 2.06. So in this section, the only way that things end up being more difficult is because you do have fractions. Again, find two numbers that are close together or next to each other. Find the common difference between those, and then you can just add that on to find the other numbers in your sequence. So that is CC1. Let's go back and look at the next one now. So the next one is CC6, write a formula for an arithmetic sequence. This one you're going to need the explicit formula. Let me hide that for a moment. I am going to write the explicit formula on here, but again, make sure that you have it. You will have to simplify this though if it says write it in simplified form. Now this one doesn't actually do that, so I think you might be able to get away without having to simplify it. So your AN, which your AN would be like outside of the box. You're not actually writing the AN. You're only going to write everything after the equal sign. So you have your A1, which is your first term, and that is going to be, let me get my eraser here. We have A1 plus your common difference times the letter N minus 1. So you are actually going to be using the letter N whenever you go through and write these formulas down. So again, you're only putting this part in the box. You don't need to worry about this AN equals part. So A1 is your first term. Well, in this sequence, my first term is 50. I am adding to get up to the next term, so I'm going to put a plus. My common difference, what I'm adding to each term, is 50. And that's going to be times N minus 1. And that's all you have to put for these. So the next one, again, you should have that formula written down. Write an expression to describe the sequence below. So I'm always going to put down my first term, which is -46. I am adding. I know it doesn't quite look like it because these are negatives, but I am adding 1 to get to the next term. So I'm going to put +1 and then parenthesis and -1. Now let's try one more here. So we have 66, 132, 198. I am adding 66 each time, and 66 is also my first term. So 66 plus 66 times N minus 1. Let's see here. Let's do a skip and see if something gets a little more difficult. Let's do another skip. Okay, so this one is asking not just for the expression, but it wants the 9th term. So with this one, my first term is -4. And I'm actually subtracting 4 each time. So this is going to be -4 times n minus 1. That's my expression. Now to find the 9th term, I'm going to be plugging in 9 where this n is in my formula. So I have -4 minus 4 times 9 minus 1. So this is -4 minus 4 times 8. You have to do this multiplication of the -4 and the 8 first. So this is -4 minus 32. -4 minus 32 is -36. So -36 is going to be my 9th term. So again, when you get to some of those higher questions, they are going to ask you not just to find the expression, but also to find a term in the sequence. Okay, the next one is going to be find the sum. The sum one is a little more difficult because you do have to plug in to find some different values. So for this one, you're going to be using the sum formula. So this is Sn equals, and again, the Sn would be outside of here because you're going to be just typing a number in the box that is the sum. N is your number of terms. That's times A1 plus AN, so your first and last terms, divided by 2. So to find A1, you're going to take whatever the number is on the bottom and plug it in for the N. So for this question, I'm going from 1 to 12. Well, from 1 to 12 is 12 terms. If you're not sure, you can always actually go through and add them up, or you can use the counting principle. It's top number minus bottom and then plus 1. So 12 minus 1 plus 1 is 12. So there's 12 terms here. The first term is going to be 7 times 1 minus 2, which is 5. So I have to plug in the bottom number to get the first term. I plug in the top number, the 12, to get the last term. 7 times 12 minus 2. Well, 7 times 12 is going to give me 84. Minus 2 is 82. And then the whole thing is divided by 2. And feel free to use a calculator during this. There's no reason for you to go through and try to struggle and do this math in your head. And I'm actually going to type this into a calculator right now. And you should end up with 522 whenever you do that. So 522 is going to be my solution. I type that into the box there. Make sure you know this sum formula, or you have it written down and what each term means. I've gone over this in many previous videos, so make sure you know that formula. And there was our solution. So again, I would use the same formula for this one. You plug in the 1 to get the first term, the 14 for the last term. There's 14 total terms. And then you plug in and you simplify. Okay, the last one is actually pretty easy. It sounds like it's a lot more difficult, but it's not. Partial sums means you find the sum number that it asks for. So we have this series that's going on forever, and it says find the third partial sum, S3. Well, you know what that means? That means you add up the first 3 terms. That's it. That's all you have to do. You just have to figure out what partial sum you're finding. If it's third, you add the 3 terms. If it's 5, you would add the 5 terms. So 1 plus 6 plus 11 is going to give us 18. Again, third partial sum. So I would add up the first 3 terms. 12 and 15 gives me 27. Let's do a skip and see if it gets more difficult. Okay, the fourth partial sum here, even though you have negatives, you're still adding up the first 4 terms. So negative 16 minus 16 minus 16 minus 16 is going to give you a negative 64. So you would actually have to put the negative in with this. It is possible for your sums to be negative. And that's all you have to do for the last one. So I hope this was useful to help give you some guidance on completing the iXLs in the CCs. Make sure you work through these and reach out to me if you have any questions.